her giant head, stretching it over the mountain ledge. Her scales glittered honey gold in the dawnlight. She was still, very still, as if she were waiting for something. "Come on! We have to climb on her back!" shouted Annie. "Why?" cried Jack. "We have to go with her," said Annie. "The wand brought us to the dragon. Now it's up to us to show her what to do." "Okay, okay," said Jack. Annie climbed onto the back of the cloud dragon. She sat between two of the dragon's shark-like fins. Jack climbed on behind her. He gripped the fin in front of him as if he were holding on to the horn of a saddle. "Fly over the fire!" yelled Annie. "Make rain! Lots of it!" shouted Jack. The cloud dragon slid off the mountain ledge. Jack trembled with cold as the monster slithered through the freezing sea of clouds like a snake through the grass. Above Edo, Jack looked down. Billowing black smoke and red flames shot into the dawn sky. "Now! Rain now!" Jack said. The cloud dragon reared back her head. Great black clouds flowed from her mouth. The clouds spread across the sky. There was a crack of thunder and a flash of lightning. The rain began to pour down on the city. The dragon twisted her head this way and that. More clouds blew from her mouth, and more rain fell on the burning city of Edo. As the dragon slithered through the sky, breathing out mountains of storm clouds, rain fell on the flat lands of the rice fields, on the imperial garden, the samurai castles, the fish market, and the great bridge. Ah, look at the dragon. The cloud dragon. Rain fell on the floating world of inns and stages, tea houses, temples, and farms. Rain fell on the lumber yard and the pine forest and the canals. Slowly the rain washed away all the smoke and flames. Even after the fires of Edo no longer flickered, the cloud dragon breathed more black clouds, and the rain kept falling steadily, soaking the gardens and fields, filling the shallow rivers and dried up ponds. "The fire's out!" Jack shouted. "Take us to Basho's!" Annie yelled to the dragon. The cloud dragon twisted her giant body. She slid through the dark clouds. Then she reared up until Jack and Annie couldn't hold on any longer, and they were falling backward, somersaulting through the air. Splash! Splash! Jack sank to the bottom of the river. He flailed his arms and struggled to the surface. His head bobbed up. He spewed out water and gasped for air. He had lost his glasses. He dove back down and grabbed them from the river bottom, then swam back to the surface. Treading water, he wiped his glasses, then put them on. "Hi!" Annie yelled. She was holding the wand in the air, above the water. "Hi!" Jack yelled back. Jack and Annie swam toward the bank of the river. They swam until their feet could touch bottom. Then they dragged themselves out of the water and collapsed on the muddy bank. They had lost their socks and sandals. Their silk kimonos clung to their bodies, dripping wet. They gasped for breath and looked up at the sky. Big drops of rain splashed on their faces. There was no sign of the cloud dragon, but the cool rain kept falling, bathing the floating world of Edo. Chapter 9. Flowers of Edo. "We did it!" said Annie.
What was Basho?
Basho was helping the firemen. "We made our own magic. Yeah, we got a cloud dragon to put out the fire," breathed Jack. He felt dazed. "Do you think we're near Basho's house?" "I think so," said Annie. "We asked the cloud dragon to take us there, so I bet she did. Come on, let's find Basho." Jack and Annie stood up and started walking along the edge of the river. They walked barefoot through the mud, under dripping trees. "Hey, there's the clearing," "Excuse me," said Annie. Jack and Annie headed toward the clearing behind the trees and tall grass. "Oh no!" cried Annie. "Look!" In the clearing, rain was falling in the charred ruins of Basho's house. The shingled roof and the bamboo walls of the little hut had burned and collapsed. "Oh no, Basho's house! got burned. Where's Basho? Said Jack, scared. There, said Annie. The famous poet sat on a log next to his banana tree in the gray rain. His clothes were blackened. His face was covered with soot. He clutched his writing box. Basho! Yelled Annie. Basho looked up. A smile crossed his dirty, withered face. I looked for you by the river, but didn't see you, he said. I am glad you are safe. We're glad you're safe too, said Jack. But your castle burned down, said Annie. Yes, it burned before the miracle of the rain, said Basho, sighing. Jack and Annie sat on the log next to him. Through the smoky drizzle, they all stared at the rubble. Trees and plants dripped with rain. A pigeon called. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Annie broke the silence. I'm glad you still have your banana tree, she said. I like the sound of the rain falling on the leaves. Basho looked up, but didn't say anything. Yeah, and I like the sound of the river, said Jack. It's louder now since the rain came. Basho tilted his head as if listening to the rain on the leaves of the banana plant and to the steady rushing sounds of the river. His face softened. Yes, I like those things too, he said. He held up his wooden box. And I still have my poems. Don't worry, Basho, said Annie. Everything can be built again. And your castle will be even more beautiful than before, said Jack. Basho smiled. I suppose that is why the ancients called our fires the flowers of Edo, he said. What do you mean? Asked Jack. After something is destroyed by fire, a good new thing often takes its place, said Basho. Just as after the bleakest winter, beautiful flowers return with the spring. I'm sure you'll make many beautiful flowers, said Annie. Thank you, said Basho. I am sorry, though, that you and Jack will not have a place to stay now. Don't worry, said Annie. We have to travel back to our own house. How far away is that? Asked Basho. Very far, said Annie. She and Jack stood up. But we just need to get back to the Imperial Garden. We'll know the way from there. Good, said Basho. He stood up. Come, I will accompany you back to the garden. Thanks, that would be great, said Jack. Basho picked up his walking stick. Then he led Jack and Annie along the bank of the river. Through the light drizzle, they saw a ferry boat moving upstream. Basho waved and the pilot steered the boat to shore. Jack and Annie followed Basho onto the ferry. The three of them sat together on a wooden bench. The other passengers stared at them. Many had ashes on their clothes and soot on their faces. Jack was relieved to say that no samurai were on board. Greetings, Master Basho, the pilot said. The other passengers nodded respectfully to Basho. They smiled as if the presence of the great poet gave them hope. The rains were a miracle. Were they not, Master Basho? An old woman said. Indeed they were, said Basho. I guess the cloud dragon showed up just in time, said Annie. Annie, whispered Jack. Basho smiled at her. I am afraid no one believes in the cloud dragon anymore, Annie, he said. But it is lovely to pretend, is it not? Yes, it is lovely, said Annie. The rain stopped as the ferry boat traveled up on the river. Mist rose from the water and birds began to sing. When they passed the tea house, Jack and Annie saw firefighters cleaning up after the fire, sweeping up broken tiles and scrubbing the walkways. Waiters were bringing them tea. The sun was shining by the time they passed the puppet stage and the charred lumber yard. West of smoke still rose from the black piles of burned logs. The ferry boat floated on through the bright morning. It glided under the great bridge and passed the crowded fish market. Fishermen were hauling their catch from the night before. By the time they moved past the samurai castles and came near the moat of the Imperial Garden, the sun had completely dried out Jack's and Annie's kimonos. The boat pulled up to the landing. Basho helped Jack and Annie onto the dock. He waved goodbye to the boat passengers. Jack, Annie, and Basho walked over the stone bridge that crossed the moat. They walked through the massive gate in the high wall. Then they followed the path of the imperial garden around the big rocks and the pond with the swans. Jack kept an eye out of the horses and samurai warriors, but the garden was as peaceful as when they had first landed. It was filled with birdsong. The willows swayed, water from the waterfall tumbled into the green pool. Jack caught sight of the sun shining on the treehouse high in the cherry tree. Jack stopped walking. "We know our way home from here," he said to Basho. "Are you certain?" asked Basho. He did not seem to notice the treehouse in the cherry tree. "We're sure," said Annie. "Once we start on our way, the trip will be easy." Basho nodded. "You remind me of the famous saying of the samurai Musashi," he said. "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step." "I've heard that saying before," said Jack. "Words can outlive their creators," said Basho. "Though I will never be so lucky as to have mine outlive me." "Don't be too sure of that," said Annie. Basho gave them a little smile. "I hope you both will return to Edo someday," he said. "Look for me when you come back. I should have a lovely new castle on the river by then." "Thanks," said Jack. "Goodbye," said Annie. They both bowed to Basho. Basho bowed to them. Then the great poet turned and left them. Falling cherry blossoms floated on the wind as he walked away. Jack and Annie watched Basho until they could no longer see him. Then they turned to go. Just as they started walking, a man stepped out from the shadows of the garden. The man wore a blue coat and 2 swords hung from his belt. "Excuse me," said the samurai. "May I see your passport, please?" "Oh no, not again." Chapter 10. Journey of 1,000 miles. Jack couldn't speak. "Our passport?" said Annie. They got destroyed in a fire on the other side of the Great Bridge." The samurai narrowed his eyes. "Your passports burned?" he said. "Why were you on the other side of the Great Bridge?" "We were with Master Basho," said Jack. "Master Basho?" said the samurai. "Yes," said Annie. "We are students of his." Ah, the samurai's expression brightened. "So you study poetry with Master Basho?" "Yes," said Annie. "Would you like to hear some poems?" "Oh no," thought Jack. "Not again." "Yes, please," said the samurai. "No problem." Annie thought for a moment and then said, "Here's a simple little poem," she recited. "Rain falls outside, but a tiny cricket on the hearth is dry tonight." The samurai nodded. He said. "Yes, very simple, but very lovely." "Thank you," said Annie. The man turned to Jack. Jack could hardly breathe. His mind was blank. He looked to Annie for help, but Annie just smiled, waiting to hear his poem. Jack cleared his throat. He tried to stay calm. He closed his eyes and let his mind roam over their visit to Japan. He opened his eyes. He looked up at the cloudless sky and said, "The sun is shining. The day is hot. But moonlight and cold breezes still fill my heart, left over from last night." "Whoa," whispered Annie. "Good." "Yes, very good," said the samurai. He looked at the sky, the moonlight, the cold breeze. He mused. "Left over from the night. Very good. Master Basho has taught you well." The samurai strolled away, shaking his head and murmuring to himself. He let out a happy laugh, as if delighted with the day. Jack couldn't believe it. They were free. "Hurry, let's go," he said, "before someone else sees us." Jack and Annie ran to the rope ladder and started up. As soon as they climbed inside the treehouse, Jack grabbed the Pennsylvania book. He found a picture of the Frog Creek woods, as the famous samurai once said. "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step," said Jack. "Or one sentence," said Annie. "Right," said Jack. He pointed at the picture. "I wish we could go home." Annie gasped. "Wait a minute," she said. "We forgot our mission." "What?" said Jack. But the wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. That was what I was thinking too. I was like, They never mentioned about their mission.
Yeah, but never did you mention they did the farm.
The early morning air was cold. Jack and Annie were back in Frog Lake, wearing their own clothes. Jack's burlap bag was a backpack again. He looked inside to make sure the wand of the Yantos was there.
Oh no, they failed their mission.
No, they did not. They saw the cloud dragon. I don't know. Jack's burlap bag was a backpack again. He looked inside to make sure the wand of the Yantos was there. It was, and Basho's frog poem was there too. I can't believe it, said Annie. We didn't look for a secret of happiness for Merlin. How could we forget that? Oh man, said Jack. We were so busy worrying about the samurai and putting out the fire that we forgot our mission. What will Morgan say, said Annie. We've never forgotten a mission before, and this one was the most important we've ever had. To help save Merlin. Annie was near tears. Wait, calm down, said Jack. Let's think a minute. Maybe we actually found the secret of happiness. Maybe we just don't know we found it. You mean like, were we extra happy at any time? Asked Annie. Yeah, sort of, said Jack. Were we? I don't know, were you? Said Annie. I think a few times, said Jack. Like when? Said Annie. Like when we were crossing the Great Bridge with Basho. I felt sort of happy then, said Jack. Me too, said Annie. And I was pretty happy eating sushi. Yeah, but I got scared when I saw the samurai watching me, said Jack. What about the sumo wrestling match? Asked Annie. That was fun, said Jack. But I don't know if it really made me happy. Riding the dragon and putting out the fire, said Annie. That was great, said Jack. But I was too worried about saving the city to be happy. Making up poems for the samurai, said Annie. Too nervous, said Jack. Well, when were you purely happy, said Annie. I think it was when Jack stopped. He felt silly saying what he was about to say. Go ahead, said Annie. I think it was when I was lying on the mat with Basho's house, said Jack. And I touched that little patch of moonlight on the floor, and I listened to the banana leaves in the wind. Oh yes, said Annie. Before we fell asleep, and I heard the cricket, and I felt like I was a cricket myself going to sleep in a cozy place. Yeah, like that, said Jack. It's like what Basho said about finding beauty in the small things of nature, said Annie. Like his poem about the frog splashing in the water. I think that's it, said Jack. A secret of happiness is paying really close attention to the small things in nature. Wow, said Annie. I think that's a great secret to share with Merlin. It is, said Jack. And Basho's poem will help Merlin understand. Right, said Annie. Let's go, said Jack. Annie climbed down the rope ladder. Jack put his pack on his back and followed her. As Jack and Annie started through the chilly woods together, Jack noticed things he hadn't seen before. He saw tiny blue wildflowers sprouting up the wintry weary ground. He saw fresh anthills in the dirt. He saw leaf buds on twigs and green moss on a rock, bright in the March sunlight. I feel like I'm seeing spring for the first time, said Jack. Me too, said Annie. Not just for the first time this year, said Jack, but for the first time in my whole life. Me too, said Annie. Jack felt happy, really happy, as he and Annie headed for home in the sparkling morning light. The end. Thanks for watching. Until next time. Bye-bye.